Powell was a phenomenon to begin with, and then
Yeah.
for him was just stepping up to a level of physicality that we needed him to get to, which he did, and we went on to win back-to-back championships.
My man.
Yeah.
How important is understanding human psychology and human behavior to work with a team as opposed to just relying on your gifts and talents?
It's probably the most important thing. You know, when you're in this culture in our society, you can do some phenomenal things individually, but they'll never reach their full potential unless you do them collectively. And you have to figure out how to do that. And you know, Phil Jackson was great at that. And Phil, you know, he wouldn't just coach the team or coach the game, but he'd read everything about every single player.
Really?
You learn about your history, how you grew up, how you were raised, where were you raised. You know, he'll read every interview, and he'll learn about you, and gives him a better understanding of what's motivating you, or what your insecurities are, right? And then it just helps him communicate with you better, or even push a button here if he needs to.
When did you learn that it was important to understand who your teammates are, what their likes or dislikes are? Was that in high school for you or more?
No, it was, I learned it from Phil. There was a stretch in '03 where Shaq was out with an injury. And Phil called me up to his office and said, okay, we need you to really turn on the afterburners and start scoring the ball if we have to win. So I did, and I wound up scoring, I think it was 9 straight games with 40-plus points.
9 straight?
9 straight games. And then Shaq comes back, second to last game of that. And then Phil calls me up to his office and says, Kobe, okay, I need you to dial it back. I'm like, why? Like, we're winning. I don't understand. It's because our goal is to win a championship. And we can get through the Western Conference with you playing this way. But in the East, you know, we can dominate them inside with Shaq in the post. But if you continue to do this, we'll lose Shaq. We'll lose him.
His motivation, his excitement.
What triggers him, right? So I need you to pull back so we can pull Shaq forward for June.
Wow.
And I just looked at him like, this is one smart dude.
Wow, that's really smart.
Yeah, it's one smart dude, man. So I pulled it back.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the greatest challenge you've had since leaving the game?
The greatest challenge. I think it's, you know,
I mean, you won an Oscar, you're launching podcasts and shows, and you got a book coming out.
Yeah, but it's different though. Like, you know, we were just talking about it here in the office the other day. You know, when you play the game, you hit a game-winning shot, you miss a shot, the reaction's there. You can see how people are responding to it, right? You can feel it.
The energy is
the energy is there. What I do now, you don't. Like, I don't see how people are affected by their basketball, or, you know, creating the Punies and you put it out there. Like, I wish I could see a car ride of a family the first time their daughter hears Lily's Lemonade and what she's doing, you know, if she's singing along to it. That's not there, right? So that's the challenge. That's the one thing that I miss, is being able to feed off of the energy. Yeah.
The instant feedback that you get from missing or scoring a shot, winning or losing a game. It's like either way you're getting a result, right?
Yes, that's the one thing. And when I went to, because I spent a lot of time with mentors as well, up at Pixar and Disney Studios. They've been absolutely wonderful animation, Disney animation. And I taught them about Frozen and Moana and how our kids love them. And they're always like, oh, that's awesome. And they want to hear it because they don't ever get a chance to truly see it. Like, they're not
sitting in the movie theater like.
No. And they don't have time to go to Disneyland and walk around the park and see how many families are enjoying the content that they've created because they're busy making the next
creating.
One. Yes. So that's the one thing.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for most athletes after they retire?
I think it's the fear of starting anew, and that was certainly present for me as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Like an identity, you mean, or?
Well, it's starting from scratch, right? Because when you play for 20 years, I played for 20 years, you reach a certain level, you're like, okay, wait a minute, I have to start again at the base of a mountain and try to climb the top of this mountain. First of all, what mountain am I climbing? I don't even know, like, what the hell am I going to be doing? And it's very scary. It's very scary.
Even for you?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. And the thing that helped me actually was hurting my Achilles, because that forced me to sit there and say, okay, the day could be today that your career is over.
At any time when you were playing, you mean, yeah.
Now what do you do? you have these ideas about doing something with your life after basketball. But what if today is the day that's it? Now what do you do? So I had all this time sitting there with my Achilles injury and contemplating and thinking, and I said, I better get to work.
Wow.
And that was that.
What was the vision for you afterwards then? Was it to do what you're doing now, or did you have other ideas, or what's the vision for
I
Kobe?
struggled with it at first, because the first question I asked, which is the wrong question, is what's the biggest industry I can get into?
Was it more money thinking?
Yes,
Or
money thinking, saying, okay, athletes are saying you can't make more revenue when you retire, this is your source of your income is here. Saying, okay, that's a challenge, what can I do? And I remember just going for
didn't you launch a fund or something?
I did. And so I went for a ride, and I said, okay, stop thinking of it that way. You're thinking of it the wrong way. Why did you start playing basketball? Because I loved it. All right, what do you love to do? Oh, well, I love to tell stories. All right, let's do that. And then that's where it started for me. And then on top of that, it became things like, you start learning more about the financial industry and about players going broke once they retire, and saying, okay, how can I minimize the chances of that happening? What are things that I can do to invest my money smartly? Also help control some of that outcome to a certain extent.
Right.
And that's when I called Mike Rapoli. Mike Rapoli was an entrepreneur who built Vitamin Water, Pirates Boot, and some other companies, and started learning from him. And then from that came the opportunity to invest in body armor.
Yeah.
And which we're
good.
drinking now.
It's delicious.
But all that came from the injury, and really having to self-assess and face that really dark room of what comes next.
Storytelling is something you're really passionate about. What's a story over your life that's been a constant theme that you go back to? Is there something you heard as a kid that really resonates with you, or a book, or a movie that just feels like this is me?
Yeah, that's funny. Movies, there are plenty, but there's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And that's something I always live by. I'm not going to rest. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time.
What does losing feel like to you?
It's exciting.
Why is it exciting?
Because it means you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
Right.
but at the same time, there are answers there if you just look at them.
Because you get the information from losing more than from winning, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the answers are there when you win too. You just have to look at them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a constant process. It's exciting when you win. It's exciting when you lose, because the process should be exactly the same, whether you win or you lose. As you go back and you look and you find things that you could have done better. You find things that you've done well that worked. You figure out how did they work, why did they work, how can you make them work again.
Yeah.
And but the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge.
You mean face it? You mean look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, this is how I showed up, or this is what happened? And
I'll give you an example. So Katie Lou Samuelson is one of the best college basketball players in the country. She plays at UConn. She's going to be a senior.
Right now.
Yeah. And she's from Huntington Beach, out here by us. And so she comes down and she works with some of my girls on the team, and she helps coach. And they just had a really tough season last year where they lost to Notre Dame in the final.
That's right.
Really tough.
First loss in years, right?
Yeah. And so I asked her, I said, have you watched the Notre Dame game? She was like, no. I said, well, why not? I said, I don't want to watch that. I said, I know you don't, but you're going to play Notre Dame this year, yeah? Yeah. What's the chances you see him again in the final? Goes, well, you probably see him again. I said, well, you can't show up and play them without knowing why you lost that one, right? So, the mistakes that you've made in that game, you have to do the hard stuff and watch that game and study that game to not make those mistakes over and over again just because you weren't brave enough to face it. So she came down to the office. I brought her down to the office and we sat down, we watched that game together.
Wow.
Right? And you gotta deal with it.
Face it.
You gotta deal with it. Face it, learn from it.
Wow, that must have been cringing for her to just be like, oh,
Yeah.
replaying like we could have won, all these things.
That's exactly it, isn't
If
it?
I just did that one thing,
That's exactly
if I
right.
didn't get that foul, if I was scored that
Exactly
layup.
Right. That's exactly right. You're looking at it and say, oh, there's the mismatch. Oh, there's the gap. You know, and all those little things, and it sucks. But you don't want to have that feeling again, do you? Right? So you got to really study it, face it, and not to say you'll win the next time you face it, but at least you'll give yourself a better chance.
Yeah. And what was your routine and ritual like after every game? Would you watch almost every game over, or certain games?
All of them.
Every game you
Every game.
watch?
Every game.
The whole game back?
The whole game.
No
So
way.
Yeah. So it started with me when I was when Phil Jackson's his first year here with the Lakers. One of his assistant coaches, his name was Tex Winter, and I call him Yoda. I mean, he was like 82 when he got here.
Wow.
And he was responsible for teaching me the triangle offense.
How old were you then?
I was 21.
So 3 years, 4 years in the league?
Yeah,
or?
so about my fourth year in the league.
Okay.
And so I go up to his room, and this is when there were no iPads or anything like that, right?
Right.
So when you're on the road,
VHS tapes,
you have to call down to the front desk, and they have to bring up the TV
Right.
with the whole, the rolly thing, and the
Yeah.
VHS and the cassette tape. You pop it in, and I thought we were going to watch what we call touches. So watch all your touches when you have the ball, all the decisions you make, good ones and bad. No, we're watching the start of the game
Oh my
to
gosh.
the end of the game, and not like the TV feed. We're watching the in-arena feed, the layup line, the timeouts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, rewinding, stopping, fast forward, rewinding, slow motion, every little thing, every game of that season with the 82-year-old Yoda,
Oh my gosh.
who is as brutally honest as you can get.
What did that teach you that season?
It taught me to look at detail. Right, look at things at their smallest. Right, look at body language. Look at the energy between players, our team and the other team.
Wow.
Right, look at the tactics. Look at the overall strategy, and to look at how tactically things are manifesting themselves. And because I watched so much film, then it gave me the ability to see game in real time as if I was watching film.
Wow.
Where I can see pop, 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 pop. Because a lot of times the game starts moving really fast. But if you train yourself to watch hours and hours of film, the game's not moving that fast anymore. You can really recognize who's doing what and why. Then you can position guys in the right places in real time.